Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Module 4. So, the last time in Module 2, we talked about power. Now, in Module 4, we'll talk about states, nations, and globalization. So, you will see also how power is being manifested in this particular topic. So, we will have all these targets, at least 5 targets for this module. And then we'll start with the first activity, which is actually uh, expressing your idea about what this picture tells us. So just say any word or any statement that you wish to say about this particular picture. What does this tell us, and what does this tell you? And then we will define what we mean by state. So according to the definition, a state is a community of nations, more or less numerous, permanently occupying a definite portion of territory, having a government of their own, to which the great body of inhabitants render obedience, and enjoying freedom from external control. So this definition at least highlights the 4 important elements of a state. So mahambal kita nga state siya kung may ara ining 4 ka elements. Ano ni silang 4 ka elements? First, we have people. As the definition tells us, at least more or less numerous. Kung gamay-gamay malang ang population, that cannot be considered a state. And then territory. So as the definition, it has to be permanently occupying. So dapat permanent siya nga occupation, no? Sa mga ka nga teritoryo, imo gid nga teritoryo nga imo. And then third is there must be a government, no? Kung sa diin, the people under that government are also obeying, no, the laws, rules, and whatever is there stipulated in the constitution of that particular state. So dapat may gobyerno gid nga ginasunod. And last one is ginatawag nga sovereignty or soberanya. In other words, we are enjoying freedom from external control. So wala kita gina-control sa other nation. We have our own, no, nga kaya naton panindugan ang aton kaugalingon nga territory, kag mapasunod nato ang aton mga tawo kag wala kita gina-control sa iba nga nation. Meaning we have our independent foreign policy as a state. So take note that these 4 elements have to be present. In some books, they include what we call recognition. Nga balakat na recognition, recognize siya sa ginatawag nga sa other countries, including the United Nations. But that's not very necessary. Ining 4 ka kinanglanon gining ara nga ga-exist kisa kung magambal ka nga isa ka country is considered a state. So it gives us an idea whether our country, the Philippines, is considered a state. Now look at these 4 elements. Can you find them in our country? If your answer is yes, then we can be considered a state. So there are 2 types of sovereignty. One is internal, the other one is external. So magambal ang internal, the power of the state to command authority within its jurisdiction. So makaya bala sa gobyerno nga mapatuman ang iya nga mga iya otoridad sa sulod sang iya na sa sakupan. If your answer is yes, then in other words, that country has what we call internal sovereignty. Magambal naman kita nga external sovereignty, the power and freedom of the state to carry out its activities without foreign domination or control. So in other words, kung may mga polisiya kitaya or mga layi kitang gusto ipatuman sa aton country, wala kita ginadiktahan sa iba na country. Ginadiktahan pala kita sa ibang countries when we make decisions, when we create our laws, when we make decisions about cases to other countries interfere o naga himasok bala sila sa aton mga internal affairs. So, kung makita nyo nga wala, that means we have external sovereignty. Wala kita ginapakialaman. Wala kita ginamanduan sa ibang nga nasyon kung ano atong gusto obrahon. That is what we call external sovereignty. If you find that happening in our country, that means we exercise sovereignty. So, soberanya. So, ang importante man lang sang notion nga magkinahanglan ta ang notion sovereignty because we need to know kung to what extent can we exercise our power within and without, no, within sa sulod sa aton nga territory, jurisdiction, kag ma-exercise matagapon power nga wala kita gina control or ginamanduan sa iba na countries what to do and what not to do. Okay, next one. So what ano ang mga duty? So that's why as citizens of the country we have the right to demand from our government. May karapatan kita ya mag-demand gaman dapat kabalo kita kung ano ang duty sa isa ka estado sa iyang mga tao. Ano ina ang mga, there are at least 5, no, more or less, no, 5 duties of the state. Number 1, peace and order and national security. Kuan gina yan, no, di ba sa aton pag-study sang ginatawag na social contract, no. So nakita naton nga social contract siya bangod, it's a kasunduan between the government and its people. Ang government, the people will do its duty as citizens by paying taxes, by following the rules and laws of the land. On the other hand, while the citizens are doing their part, the government also should do its part. So you are paying tax. So what will the government do? Dapat balik yaman sa tawo through social services. Kag iban-iban pagid nga mga dapat niya obrahon, amo nang ginatawag nga social contract. Social contract meaning this society will not sustain itself without these two working together. So peace and order and national security iya gina sa gobyerno, no? That's why kinanglan niya pabos kugo ng iya nga military forces, iya police forces and other peace and order mechanism, no? That's why ginabudgetan gid na. Second, political harmony or good laws. So dapat kabalo man siya mag-deal sa mga political organizations or mga nga diverse lalo sa democratic system. Expect kaya nga diverse magid ang mga political organizations. You cannot expect nga ang tananda nga mga politicians or political organizations will always agree with the government. No, we are in a democratic country. Na-allow ta na iyang iba-iba nga mga perspective. Kay kung wala na ina sila, meaning we are not democratic anymore. The fact that we allow people nga mag-kontra sa gobyerno or mag-say yes sa government, that means our country is still functioning in a democratic system. Kay kung ara ka na sa hindi democratic nga country, hindi ka nakapagusto, hindi kaya pwede basta makahambal negative against the government, no? Sa aton nga case, we are blessed nga kita sa democratic system, so we gina-allow naton ang different perspectives, no? Even ang mga rebelde na, no, they have their own ideology, ti respecta na kaya mo na ila ideology basta hindi lang sila yung maggamit sang force against the government. Otherwise, if they do that, then the government has to do its police power, no, to control and to regulate. Next one is social justice. Amo na ginahambal ko ina nga dapat ibalik sa tao ang ilagi na hatag man sa gobyerno through social services. In other words, dapat ang aton mga education, ang aton health, mga social development naton dapat intact, in place. Kaya that's part of social justice nga dapat the government should be mindful of trying to do something about poverty nga hindi maging grabe nga damo niyang imol, no? So hindi na siya manami or what we call damo na wala trabaho. So the government has to do something about them. That's part of its duty. Next is economic development. Dapat magpanumduman ang gobyerno kung paano ma-ensure nga maga-progresibo man siya. Kaya kung may economic development ang isa country, mas naga-umwad man ang quality of life ng tao. So dapat as much as possible mangita sa mga creative ways kung paano niya buligan ang tao nga maging productive. Kaya kung hindi productive ang tao, wala siya income, no? So dapat may income ng tao para makakontribute man siya sa development of the country. And of course, lastly, individual and collective development of people. So, dapat part pa na sang duty sa isa ka state. That is why, as citizens sa ating country, dapat kabalo kita kung ano dapat ang obligasyon sa gobyerno sa aton. Hindi nga kung ano na lang obrahon sa gobyerno nga biskin di na tama, di mapinaukoy lang kita. No, that is not being productive. Being productive and being proactive citizen is we have to remind our government of their duties. And we too should also remind ourselves of our duties towards our country, towards our government, and that is what we call good citizenship. Amo na gani sa atong subject, diba? Citizenship, solidarity, and engagement. Gani kung good ka nga citizen, dapat ga-engage ikaw. Dapat you are in solidarity sa mga tao sa iyong palibot, di nga kanya-kanyang pamilya, kanya-kanyang salbar. That cannot be, no? You are not living in isolation, you are living with the community. So dapat you have to be mindful of what's going on sa inyo man nga society. You have to dapat makialam kagid, no? Ano pa ang pulos sa study? Ikaw politics and governance kung hindi man ka involved, no? Hadlo ka imo mag-post about politics. Sino nga ba si mo nga bawal, no? Lalo na sa Panay, no? Masyado kita ka hadlo kita mag-speak against sa kung kay basi mapinopolitika, no? Who said so, no? Dapat as members sa atong community, no, dapat may voice kita, no? Kung may ara kita bagay nga dapat ihambal sa atong government, we should not be afraid to tell our government what they should be doing, no? So part na sa aton obligasyon bilang good citizens. Hindi yang naddo kita sa politika, so hindi na lang kita mag-voice out, no? That's why sa aton Facebook, it's still okay to talk about politics as long as it is for the good of our society and for the good of our municipality. So hindi dapat kita maging afraid. Kaya tayo na do kita itag na ara naman o kontra partido ka naman, no? That shouldn't be na wala ya kontra or pro o partido sa good governance. Pagambal kita nga good governance, regardless kung ano imo political color, dapat may voice ikaw ya sa imo community. Now, because we are in a democratic country. Di kita ya sa isa ka autocratic nga or whatsoever pa nga forms of government. So, let's remind ourselves of that certain responsibility. So, meaning of a nation. A nation is a group of people bound together by certain characteristics and shares the same history, ancestry, culture, and language. So, that is why we cannot also doubt our own state as a nation. That's why we also call the Philippines as a nation. We are also a nation because we have also common history. We have common culture. So, that's part of our cultural heritage and the cultural richness of our country. So we are also considered a nation. So this is now the distinction between a state and a nation. So state existed not only at present but also in the ancient period, while nation is a modern phenomenon or occurrence. Non-modern, no, na nga concept ang nation. Mga balketa nga state, it's legal and political. Mga balketa nga nation, it's ethnic culture. So when a president talks to other countries, dapat the president should look at the Philippines as a state, no? Pero kung the president, for example, is in the US and is talking to the Filipino community, then he can use the word nation, no? We are a nation, so pwede niya address because common, no? The people there are usually in sync with the culture and even language, no? So state, people organized for law within a definite territory. That's why state kita, because we have our own territory. However, mga bagay nga nation, people psychologically join together with common will to live together. So not necessarily about law, but because of the psychological or emotional link with each other. That's why they are a nation. A state must be sovereign. Dapat may haragig na may soberanya. Again, meaning you can exercise control over the people within, and you can also exercise control within your policy as a nation without being threatened or being influenced by other countries. But in nation, people continue as a nation even if they do not remain sovereignty. So, pwede gapon sila yung maging nation miskin wala sila sang soberanya sa nation nga concept. Inhabited, populated by hetero, meaning iba-iba nga mga tao. Paabot sa nation niya, common. May mga common groups of people. So, that's the distinction between state and nation. So, in your activity now, we have now the T diagram. So, write your justification nga man ang Philippines is a nation kat ang Philippines is also a state. Ano ang reason nga man nation man kita? Ano ang reason nga man state man kita? Now, activity 2, we have now the W diagram. Pili ka mo diri, no? I-organize nyo and answer the questions that follow. Write your answer separate sheet of paper. So, din diri ang nation, din diri ang state. Tapos, there are questions that you need to answer. Now, what makes a nation state? Okay. How is nation different from state? How is nation related to state? Can nation be state? And can a state become can a state be a state? Can a state be a nation? So that's the vice versa there. And then what are the underlying characteristics distinguishing state from nation? So ano magpagkaiba nila? Can we consider the Philippines as a state even if it has only 3 elements? Remember, we have 4, di ba? Pwede ba lang matawag gapon ang state? For example, wala sa government. Pero ara siya may sovereignty siya, may people siya, may territory siya. Or kaunta ang territory, pero may population siya or people siya, may sovereignty. So, ilang taon niya kung pwede ka pa matawag na state, miskin 3 lang, hindi 4. Now, what can I do? So, ang diri lang, ubra lang kamo sa imaginary nation nyo. Imagine nyo nga nation, tapos ubra kamo sa physical map. Follow all the instructions here, including the ano tawag dito, ang rubrics kung paano ka mo i-grade. Now we will talk about globalization, and this is very important concept when we talk about politics and governance. No? Okay, we are now in a period of globalization. Now, what do we mean by globalization? Before we go to the definition, may ara ka mo ano yung activity. Think about what you see in the picture. Ano nakita ito sa picture? So, after nakita yung picture, in 4 to 5 sentences, ano ang imo insights diri sa sini nga picture? Next, what is the meaning of globalization? Again, proseso siya of interaction. Diba? Ga-interact ang mga people, ang mga tao. No? May interaction kita, diba? Lalo na subong because we are now in a information age. Niyara kita ginatawag nga information technology. Pwede kita interact. Ako Pilipino, I will interact with other people in other countries. It's possible now because of globalization. Gani, if you notice, now although the world is round, but it becomes flat. No, wala na boundary no ang countries because we can now make interaction and integration. No, ang lalo na sa Pilipino, damo kita integration, no? May integration kita sa American values. May lalo na subong, no? Mahilig na kita sa Korea, no? Integration ng Korean nga culture gina-integrate na, no? Mahilig na kita sa mga kaon-kaon sa mga Korean food. See, damo-damo na kita ginatawag nga integration, no? Ang aton mga Filipino delicacies kinabutang-butangan ta na sa mga Korean flavor. So, you see, kita mismo naging product na kita subong sa ginatawag ng globalization. Di lang sang tao kundi mga kumpanya, no? Ang company sang, like for example, ang McDonald's, it's not a Filipino company, it's a US company, but it's already here in the Philippines. No, damo na kita mga companies nga gasinulod sa atong country, no? So ga-interact man kag integrate man sila sa aton nga culture as Filipinos. Ano pa gid, governments, we enter into what we call ASEAN. No, we interact with other countries like in Southeast Asia, and we also interact with other governments like in the EU, no, or the European Union, or in the US, of different governments of different nations. Or isa pa gid, ang proseso driven by international trade, no. Damo na nga mga trade nga using different ways, no? Pwede sa sea or by air, no? Nga naga-trade na gadya internationally. lalo na sa mga products and services. Damo na gid, ano pa gid, mga investments, no, mga coins, no, aided by, of course, kung bakit ang globalization gina-aid gisa sa information technology, because IT will make everything easy and make everything accessible to us. So even if you are far, IT will make it near. So amo na ginatawag na globalization. So may interaction, may integration. Wala ang tagan dara ako di gina-assume pag ginato, no? Para sa lang ba ni Francis Bacon, di ba? Kung mag-read ikaw ginakaon mo, kag ang ginakaon mo becomes part of you. So in globalization, gina part of us naman ang iba na countries, no? Ang pagka love tas ang BTS, mga ano pagin sa una nga mga American kag mga English nga mga boy bands, no? So you see, we are one, no? We are one with them. So in other words, because of globalization, may ara sa ginatawag nga effect sa aton environment. Because sometimes we buy products from them, we also adapt their culture, so may effect man sa aton environment, no, sa aton Filipino culture. Iban kani mas damo pa kilala nga Korean nga mga telenovelas kaysa sa Filipino telenovelas. Tao pa sa kilala nga mga Korean nga mga actors and actresses compared to the Filipino actors and actresses. Lalo na sa Hollywood movies, no, kag books, no. So may effect na sa aton nga culture, sa aton political system, no. Even our political system is actually influenced by the Americans. Ang economic development and prosperity, kung paano kita mag-unwad. That's why we go places, we go there and see what's going on in the other world, no. See, so in other words, to make the story short, globalization affects us in many ways than one. So there are forms of globalization. We have economic, we have cultural, and political globalization. Magambal kita nga economic globalization, it refers na sa economy, di ba? That's why if you notice, other economic trades are being sent to us. If you notice aton diri na sa Capiz, no, damo na kita sa mga iba-iba nga mga naganegosyo diri. May ara Korean, may ara Thais, may ara Chinese, di ba? So part na sa economic globalization kay magambal kita economic globalization, we welcome, no? We allow other nations, other cultures to also sell their products to us. So kung magbaligya sila mga produkto, of course, ga-income sila, ga-incomean kita. So kagong kita yun ang kisa, no, kung magmahal bala ang presyo sa aton mga local products, ano ginobra, kakuha kita sa mga products sa ibang nation kay mas barato. Parang aton local nga mga negosyante magpanubo sa ila presyo, no, sa mo nang isang ginaobra, no, because wala ta mo obra kay we are already in a globalization, so we allow other products to be with us, no, to enter our kulangon kita sa rice, no, ga export kag import man kita, no, rice from China, from Indonesia. So that's part of economic globalization. Next, cultural globalization, ang culture. That's why no, ari ding natabo ang mga cultural no, nung dominance, no, lalo na subong sa Philippines gidya. So grabe na gid ang effect sa aton sa Korea, no, sa Korean culture. Nga do love pa nila, do grabe pa ila nga pag-prioritize, no. That's why sometimes we become confused about our identity. That's why nga man grow ang Korea. This is that their secret, ha. Kita mo ang Korea, they love their culture. Grabe sila pag-love sa culture nga. They are so proud. That's why kung i-offera na sila sa iba nga mga culture, they are not, hindi sila ya muna kakwan. Pero sa ato, no, kita ya kung Korean kag American, do grabe gid aton nga pag-prioritize kag aton nga aton bala nga kwan nga do grabe gid aton nga paghatag sa ila sang considerations, no. So this is something, no, we learn from Korea gidya, no. Sila ya tanan nila ginobra ka activities link gidya sa ila culture, even sa ila mga movies kita mo ila love sa ila country, grabe gidya. Amo nang kulang sa Pilipino. Ngani kuno ofera niyang Pilipino sang citizenship ay Sabi, may iban sa inyo nga offeran nyo, gusto magstay sa Korea, go na sa aton niya sila ya sa iba na countries, offeran sila ya magstay sa iba na country, they will not, yes, makadto lang kami tuya, pero mabalik kami sa aton amon country, because they love their country. Sa Pilipino ya, ay, offeran lang ya US visa, ay, kung pwede lang dito na lang sa material dito na sila kaya kulang kita gidjas ang ginatawag nga love of country, bisa mas proud pa kita gani ginapabugal-bugal pa nato ito mga Koreano, ti indara no din ang aton ginatawag nga although we are globally competitive and globally aware, pero we lose sight also amo ng negative effect naman sang globalization, kay sometimes we lose sight of our identity as we are as Filipino, as proud Filipinos. Kita mas proud pa kita nga gasuksok sang Korean dress, no, guro agawan nyo pa kung may ara dara, no. So where is our sense of being Filipino, no? While we admire other cultures, we should not lose sight of being proud of our own identity as Filipino. So be proud nga nagasuksok ka barong, be proud nga nagasuksok ka sang saya, no, sang Filipina gidya nga made, no. So that's going to be very tough, no, lalo na sa inyo nga masyado ka mo ka-influence gid sang globalization in your own because of the millennial trends, no. But let's remember, we are Filipino, we should be proud of it. And then lastly, we have political globalization, because no country can live in isolation. We need other countries to help us. That's why nagtungain ang United Nations, because there are conflicts nga hindi lang ma-resolve sa one country or one state. We need to cooperate with other countries para ma-resolve ini mga conflicting ideas or conflicting issues in that requires legal decision or political decision. So like sa aton nga problem sa China, kung kita lang, I don't think we can survive. That's why we need the help of US and other countries. We need the help of United Nations, no, para whatever problems they will try also to resolve, or ASEAN for that matter. There's also World Health Organization for health concerns. There's World Trade Organization for any concerns related to trade. That's what we call political globalization. They exist so that we can cooperate, we can maximize, we can fortify cooperation and interdependence. So, sa inyo dira activity number 1, ano mga words nga or concepts nga pwede nyo i-relate sa globalization? Pwede, for example, one world, or pagid, interdependence, pwede man matawag sa globalization, so on and so forth. So, accomplish, explain, after nyo nabutang dito tanan-tanan, explain nyo kanong meaning sa globalization in your own understanding. Next, activity number 2, ano nga mga issues related to political globalization, economic globalization, and socio-cultural globalization nga kita nyo sa world, no? For example, ining anong pwede tayo butang diri, political globalization. Issue sa aton dira, no, ang issue sa disputed island, no, dira sa Scarborough Shoal, no. So that's a political issue. So ang positive sa one is we can ask the help of ASEAN. We can ask the help of other countries. Ang negative effect naman diri sang political globalization is anong maging negative yang effect sa aton, no. Perhaps, no, we lose sight, no, sa aton gidya nga own capability as a nation to defend our own, because nagasinalig na lang kita sa help nila, no? So that's the negative also effect of political globalization, nga pwede nila intrahan, no, lalo na sinagabulig sa aton pila pwede nila intrahan ang aton kulingon ng mga internal decisions. So amo na negative effects ang political globalization. Damo ka muna panumdum sa babot sa cultural or economic globalization, no, lalo na subong sa economy, no, sino ang nagadominate. So look at the picture, no, mga bagong economic, no, lantawa ang look at the different products, no. See, so all you have to do is interpret the relationship among nation and states in the context of globalization. Now, what do you think globalization is significant to your life? Discuss how globalization influences Argentines Filipinos in terms of paano siya nakomplemensya ang political, ang economical, kag cultural. Political. Ano ara sa atong politics nga na-inspire siya or na-influence siya sa iba na countries. For example, sa political, di ba, ang atong political system is influenced by the US. Pati atong constitution, in US influence gid na. No? So, somehow, ang aton way of living, because we are in a democratic system, do preparyo gid sa US because we are influenced. So, that's part of political. So on and so forth, you fill that up. Then you go to the assessment. And then lastly, I think you need to have a photo documentation in your barangay. Anong ara sa inyo nga barangay? Lalo na sa mga tao, no, paano nakaapekto ang globalization sa ila mismo nga barangay? Anong ara dara? So think of political, economic, cultural nga mga influences nga gin influence sa iba nga country sa aton nga way of life as Filipino. So i-document nyo na, picturean nyo ina, no, para maka-create kamo sang collage. Okay? So with that, I hope we understood the concept of nation and globalization. Good day and take care.